Nice pilot shirt there, Moody.
Yeah, just trying to rep. And I went ahead and stuck a little Justin Herbert jersey right here.
There you go.
Presenting Dear Mr. Fantasy, ESPN Baton Rouge's exclusive fantasy football show, featuring Ben Mintz, Playboy Marty, and Tyler Moody.
Welcome, everybody, to this week's edition of Dear Mr. Fantasy on the 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge YouTube channel. It's Wednesday night. The Freaks come out at night, as always. This is Week 5, and we're going to get you ready for Week 5. We're going to break down all of the NFL matchups, guys we like, don't like. We're going to recap a little bit of Week 4 and talk a little bit about injuries. I'm your host, Ben Mintz, joined, as always, by Tyler Moody, remotely from Shreveport. Mr. Moody, how are you?
Wonderful, guys. A crazy week in the NFL, a rash of injuries, some wild events, and I'm really looking forward to breaking it down with you guys here tonight.
Yeah, and we're also joined by Playboy Marty. And Marty, once again, just doing a great job with the videos today. I thought the video was really funny.
Hilarious.
Once again, it's kind of becoming a thing every Wednesday.
Thanks, guys. I really hope our viewers were into Vine so that they understood it. But, yeah, great to be back. Doing a lot of jobs here. It takes a lot to get this show going right away. So apologies to everyone who keeps expecting us at 10. 10:30 is about what you should expect from here on out.
Yeah, the YouTube it's a different world, but we're certainly trying to make the best of it, and we're going to keep this show rolling. And appreciate all the hard work you do to get this show going. And we are going to share this thing on Facebook Live as well. Well, let's go ahead and get after just a few ththings to touch on from Week 4. I'll just go ahead and start with the Nick Chubb injury. Because this Cleveland is committed to the running game. They're 3-1. We talked at length about them spending the money on Jack Conklin, the right tackle this offseason. He's one of the best run blocking right tackles in the game. They drafted Jedrick Wills, 11th overall. They've committed to the run, and I think it's just a shame he went down with the season he was having, and Cleveland had something going, and that's going to be a big adjustment this week. Obviously, Kareem Hunt's going to get a big load, but also we saw someone else step up on Sunday.
Yeah, D'Ernest Johnson, 13 carries, 95 yards. He averaged 7.3 yards per carry in that game. Obviously, him checking into the game, nobody was expecting, especially not the Dallas defense. So I don't think they quite knew what to expect when he was on the field right there. But Kareem Hunt is obviously going to assume the lead back role here. But it looks like for Cleveland, they do have another viable backup, even behind Kareem Hunt, that they can run the football with. He looks like he's going to be pretty decent between the tackles. So, again, we don't have a lot of information on him. He's a second-year guy out of UCF. So I'm curious to see exactly what happens, or USF, excuse me, what happens with D'Ernest Johnson. But it looks like Kareem Hunt's going to take over this backfield. And for those people that were holding on to Kareem Hunt in hopes that, something like this may happen, or even just understanding that he had good standalone value, he's now vaulted into the RB1 conversation.
Certainly. And just we've seen how committed Cleveland is to running the ball. They got a tough matchup against the Indianapolis Colts, who have the number 1 run D in the NFL, and completely shut down Chicago. Some other observations from this week. Finally, a week where it wasn't just shootouts everywhere, but I'll tell you one place there was, just following up on this Cleveland-Dallas game. And, I know Dallas is 1-3, but they keep getting the game script. They keep getting down, and Dak's chucking. He's thrown for 450 yards now, I believe 3 weeks in a row. He's got the most yards in NFL history passing through 4 weeks.
He's going to break the record if their defense doesn't get better. I mean that. He's seriously going to break the passing yards record.
There's actually a funny thing in Dak in fantasy. He's never ready when the game starts. I don't know what it is, but he always plays like crap in the first quarter. But it's a blessing because if you get down, you're going to throw it all the time.
Yeah.
And so, it's the anti-Patrick Mahomes thing where you see the Chiefs get up a couple touchdowns and freeze it a lot. And so with the Cowboys continuing to play from behind, all their guys, Amari Cooper had his best game of the year. Dalton Schultz, another good game. CeeDee Lamb, you thought before the year they got too many guys to throw it to, but if they're throwing 55 times a game, it's just right.
Look, all the mouths are eating. And even though Zeke's not getting 25 carries on the ground, he just had, in PPR leagues, he had 15 points through the air by himself. He had, 12 points through the air in half-point PPR league. So even though Dallas is getting down, it's not completely destroying Zeke's value here. I mean, so he still put up a 20-point week in PPR leagues, even though he only carried the football 12 times, which that's not what Dallas wants to do. They would prefer to be balanced and let Zeke touch it 20 times on the ground. But, obviously game script is not leading to that right now. And Dak's having to sling it 502 yards on Sunday, guys. That is absolutely insane. I mean, he's willing to battle down the stretch, but it's great for fantasy owners. For Cowboys fans, it's certainly not, though.
No, it didn't. And 1-3 Cowboys, but hey, at least they're in the right division. They're only a half a game back. I want to give a shout out to. He didn't have the best fantasy game, but congrats to Joe Burrow and getting his first NFL victory. 300 yards. He had 290 yards in this game, but he almost had 300 yards passing 3 straight weeks. It's about to get tougher for him this week at Baltimore, but the big thing for Cincinnati, finally getting some help. Joe Mixon had 150 yards. He's been invisible so far this year, and love seeing Burrow get some help there. And Moody, do you think Mixon can build on this?
Well, I think this is going to be maybe one of the higher points for him this season. Jacksonville did get gashed up against the run, and Mixon obviously took advantage of them in this game. So what I think you're going to see out of Joe Mixon the rest of the year is somewhere in between what we saw the first 3 weeks and what we saw this week. I believe this will be one of the outliers. This will be one of his high points on the season. But he's also not going to be as bad as he was early on in the year. There were people out there very much complaining about Joe Mixon and his lack of production. Well, he showed up last week. He probably won a lot of teams their week. And I think you're going to see that he'll be a very viable option down the stretch, but don't expect him to put up 30 points every week. I think he's going to be more in that 15 to 16 range with pretty good consistency. I'm actually a little surprised that he struggled as much as he has out of the gate, but that really all ties back into how bad this offensive line is for the Cincinnati Bengals. So teams that have really strong offensive lines, just understand Mixon's probably going to hurt that week, but teams with average lines, he should eat a little bit.
Well, my biggest thing is I think when the Bengals play with the lead, he is an elite fantasy back. An elite fantasy back.
Yeah, but
that's just not going to happen.
When is that? The other thing we got to mention, Moody, you said something last week. It's one of the only times I've had a strong disagreement with. You said you had no doubt A.J. Green was going to have multiple 15-point games this year. I feel that I was just that was one of the only times just like, well, I don't know if I see that. I think he's done, and we see Tyler Boyd's the number one and T. Higgins, getting every chance to step up in that number 2 role. I hate to see it for A.J. Green, but it just looks like it's
he's done. No, you're right. One of the things that made him so elite is he was such a great route runner, right? His ability to cut on a dime and beat you out of the break in his route. The foot's gone, man. He can't do it anymore. That's where he created separation. He's not quick enough at the latter stage of his career to do that. I do think he's going to have a couple games here and there where he not blows up, but probably does put up 15 points. But now you can't start him because he's too inconsistent and there's not enough there. And Tyler Boyd is very clearly the star wide receiver right now. And him and Burrow are really, growing this rapport together. And T. Higgins looks good, man. They want to get the ball into T. Higgins' hands. There's a reason you went and drafted T. Higgins because you believe he's your next A.J. Green. You know what I mean? So I think you're going to see Boyd and Higgins are the 1 and 2, and then A.J. Green's going to pop up here and there with some good catches and maybe has one good game in the next few weeks. But he's certainly somebody that's droppable if you need somebody to go pick up.
I want to touch on Tom Brady's 5 touchdown passes in the Tampa Bay game. What a wild game that was. Them winning 38-31 over the Chargers to get to 3-1. And I said this before the year. It would take Brady a little bit to get to know Arians' offense. And then, Godwin's been hurt and Evans has been hurt. But I think they're getting it going. And he's going to continue to get in a better and better rhythm. And I think Brady saw, even though it's a bummer, obviously he's never going to help you rushing the ball, but his fantasy value continues to grow in this offense.
Yeah, I think he's right outside that. I think he's right outside that top tier. He's like probably 7.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair. The only other observation, there were just kind of a lot of games that there wasn't much to say about last week. Yeah, but that's fine because we don't need to spend much more time on this recap. But
before we move out of there, I want to mention Justin Herbert. I thought, look, he's
Justin
really
Hebert.
good. I thought he played. Justin Hebert. Excuse me. Look, I thought I know they didn't win this football game. I know they're 1 and 3, but he's competing, man. I've really liked what I've seen from him. He was 20 of 25 in this game, battled all the way down the stretch. For a moment, you thought he might go outduel Brady at the end of this game. Keenan Allen, 8 more catches for 62. Keenan Allen's going to put up 8 catches every single game, it feels like, the rest of the season. So I really like Herbert and Keenan Allen moving forward. And then, obviously, you can't miss the Austin Eckler injury there either.
Yeah, he's out 4 to 6 weeks. Well, let's go ahead and get after it and get people's lineup set for Week 5. We always kind of spend a little time on a recap, mention some injuries, but the big thing is previewing for the next week because we got to get everybody's starters set, and it starts tomorrow night. We got an interesting Thursday night game, rematch of the Super Bowl quarterbacks with Tom Brady and Nick Foles. Tampa heading to Chicago. Tampa's got a big injury list for this game on the short week. Fournette's out. Mike Evans is questionable.
Godwin's out.
Godwin's out yet again. Tampa Bay's a 3.5-point favorite. It seems like a tough spot for Tampa. A short week, traveling with a bunch of injuries. Nick Foles came crashing back to reality last week. No surprise there.
Yeah,
Don't be shocked. I warned y'all going into next week. Don't jump on that Nick Foles bandwagon too fast, man. He's a very, very average player at best.
You did.
He's really only got one weapon. I mean, look, here's the thing. If you're an Allen Robinson fan, though, you should still be ecstatic.
Oh, yeah.
He's the one guy that you're going to put in your lineup anyways, and Foles is throwing in the football. So the positive for the Bears is at least Allen Robinson's going to be viable every single week. Even though Foles is not going to light the world on fire, he is going to give Allen Robinson playability week after week, it feels like.
Yeah, certainly. That was one of my notes, actually. I was like, Foles helps Allen Robinson, but that's it. Jimmy Graham and Anthony Miller actually said that they were trending upward last week. That looks to be wrong. Neither of them should start for you moving forward and probably should be off your bench. And something, my biggest takeaway in this game is if you're a David Montgomery owner and you have another option, I would strongly consider it. Thursday matchups are always kind of something I try to stay away from when possible, and I think this Bucs run defense is good.
No, and then last week the Indy run defense is one of the best in the league. But I don't know. My instincts in this game kind of like Chicago plus 3.5 on the gambling front. But just fantasy-wise, I don't think it's too great a matchup for too many people. We're going to get through all these games, so let's go ahead and hit to Carolina and Atlanta. And look, this over-under is 54.5 points in Carolina and Atlanta. I've had my Atlanta theory. I've always had this theory, man. Whenever they're outside on grass, they're nowhere near as explosive. So I actually hit the under in that Green Bay Atlanta game. And also, Calvin Ridley and Julio being banged up doesn't help. Atlanta's 0-4. Carolina, pretty solid 2-2. Big win. Thought they played well, especially on defense, holding Kyler Murray like 130 yards passing last week. But this game feels like a lot of fantasy value, as it always does anytime Atlanta trots out in the field in the Dome. And
Yeah, I mean, Atlanta's just so depleted right now. I mean, Julio aggravated that hamstring injury. He's likely I would say he's probably not playing. Calvin Ridley threw up a goose egg. Like, where did that come from? Russell
I lost by 2 points, and Calvin Ridley threw up a 0.
Oh, that's brutal. That's brutal, Moody. That's brutal. And Russell Gage was quiet. So, I'm really not sure who's a great play this week. That guy I mentioned last week with Zacchaeus, he was their leading receiver. So, I don't know, maybe Hayden Hurst could get some extended targets. Maybe. I don't really know who you play from Atlanta this week.
And on the Carolina side, I think you can start Bridgewater in a 2-quarterback league, and I like DJ Moore, and I like Robbie Anderson in this matchup, especially on the turf. I think this game these NFC South matchups always get wild, and I think there's gonna be fantasy value. I think there's gonna be fantasy value. Mike Davis too. I think there's fantasy value. I mean, if you can, we got to watch the Atlanta situation more, but as y'all said, because of the injuries. But this should be a high-scoring game, and so when in doubt, you want guys on the field. In this kind of a matchup, obviously, even with Atlanta having pass-catching issues, go with Matt Ryan at home. As always, I think he'll put up pretty good numbers. Y'all have anything more on this one?
You guys know I'll trot Matt Ryan out there anytime. But whenever Julio's not 100%, Matt Ryan's not 100%. That's his guy. That's his security blanket. When things break down, he's usually got Julio. And then on days when Julio's a little banged up, Calvin Ridley usually rises to the occasion. But he's hurt too. And so, I mean, I think right now you're seeing I'm more skeptical of starting Matt Ryan than I ever am, but he'll be in my lineups on Sunday. There's no doubt. I think this is a game that Atlanta could and probably should win if everyone's on the field.
Yeah, I got a few more things on Carolina, but Atlanta, my last thing is I think Gurley reestablished control of the lead back. He's their lead back, so if you took a flyer on Brian Hill, go ahead and drop him if you hadn't already. And for Carolina, it looks like Robbie Anderson is kind of getting all the short routes with a lot of yard after catch potential. So he's moved DJ Moore to a boom or bust. I just think Anderson has a much higher floor at this point. And Teddy Bridgewater could be turning into a pretty good QB2 at this point. Pretty good.
Joe Brady offense.
Yep. And Mike Davis is really good. Keep him even after McCaffrey gets back.
Yeah, Davis has done. He's been better than I certainly expected. And the running back just has so much value built into that offense. Moody discussed that a ton last week. All right, let's hit this Vegas KC game. KC kind of sleepwalk, bad offensive performance, a rare one for them. Their defense scored some points, especially the Honey Badger pick six. Last week, they're a 13-point home favorite over Vegas. This over-under is huge, 56 and a hook. Vegas, which means there's going to be there's thought to be a lot of points in this game. And I kind of expect a big KC offensive bounce back effort. You don't see them struggle back-to-back weeks usually.
Yeah.
No, they're definitely going to bounce back.
Yeah, definitely. You're going to see the usual suspects play well again. I mean, Kelsey, Tyreek, they're just not going to have that many off weeks. Certainly Mahomes, not playing Bill Belichick this week, which proved again Bill Belichick still knows how to throw up a pretty good defensive game plan because he shut down Mahomes the last 2 times they played. But we're on a fantasy relevant game streak for Mecole Hardman, my boy. Despite like not getting a ton of snaps, he's still like tied with Demarcus Robinson, I think, for snaps. But I'd say he's probably the best fringe flex option, like maybe in the entire league. Hardman.
He's got the upside.
That's what I mean.
Mecole Hardman, but he could throw up a 0 spot very easily. That's the concern with him because he's a guy that I played a couple times last year and got lucky because he can catch an 80-yard touchdown like that.
Yeah.
I mean, just like Tyreek. But he's also he could throw up a 0 spot too. So I agree with you. I think he's a great daily fantasy play. You know what I mean? I think he's the guy that you get for decently cheap, and you have a chance for him to blow up maybe 2 catches. He goes for 100 yards and a score. I think that's kind of he's more of a daily guy that you can really feel comfortable putting him into your lineup. But I do agree that he's just so talented, man. The speed that this young man's got is crazy. But he doesn't have much of a route tree. He's not a great route runner, but the elite speed is certainly there.
We just got a comment in here that I need to address. Brian Wooldridge, my old fraternity brother, says, traded Julio and T.Y. Hilton last week for Lamar. Did I win this trade? And I'm saying, hell yeah.
I don't.
Depends on the receivers, but I think hell yeah.
Yeah, T.Y. Hilton, I'm not too inspired.
No.
What's going on with T.Y. And the Julio, we've seen this. The one thing, Julio's so talented, but once he starts getting nicked up, we've seen his seasons fall off before, and that's happened a lot to him. In his career, the last couple of years, he's been a little more injury-free. I want to comment one thing on this KC-Vegas game. KC's got an elite pass defense, and nobody ever gives them any credit because you think their games are shootouts because of how good their offense is. But once again, we saw it again. I expect Derek Carr to not necessarily do too much in this game. They're going to pound Josh Jacobs, who should have a good game and a lot of carries. Damian Harris with 100 yards rushing last week for New England. If you're against KC, these teams got to realize and New England did realize it. You got to run the ball. And you got to try to have 6 to 8 minute drives, and you can't let Mahomes get in rhythm, and he can't get in rhythm when he's sitting on the sideline watching the defense allow 5 yards to carry. That's the way to beat them.
Yep.
And I think Vegas can try to run the ball. And I actually don't like over in this game. 56.5, I think, is too high.
I flip-flopped a little on Josh Jacobs. First 2 weeks, I thought, man, this guy has a chance to lead the entire league in fantasy points. But he got bottled up again last week, and I just don't even think he's really that high floor of a RB1 at this point. I mean, he's obviously you start him, but he's not quite at that elite level that I thought he was at. And I thought Carr made a few okay throws. I don't like him in this game at all. I don't really like any Raiders in this game besides maybe Waller. But I still think Ruggs is going to have value later in the season. I know I said that on one of our shows, but I still believe that late in the season.
Yeah, just tough right now for Carr, man. There's just not enough weapons out there besides Waller. And as you mentioned, Hunter Renfro's okay. Hunter Renfro's doing a pretty good job on the short to intermediate stuff, but it just feels like for Las Vegas, they're just kind of fighting against it on offense, and they're doing a pretty good job with what they have. Like, Carr's quarterback rating on the season and QBR is actually pretty decent, so he's playing good football even with limited weapons around him. But, as you mentioned, Ben, one of the things that people just do not give Kansas City enough credit for is their defense, and especially their pass defense, because teams end up putting up points against them late in the game because they go into these soft defenses, you know what I mean? They don't want to give up the big play, and then they end up giving up some points late. And I think you may see something like that again in this game where Derek Carr has 8 points at halftime and he ends up getting to like 18 or 20 potentially because of what he does in the second half because of game script.
Denver, New England, nobody knows who's starting at quarterback on either side. Drew Lock was limited in practice. Cam's dealing with the COVID. Hopefully he can be back for this one. Brian Hoyer and Jarrett Stidham did not do a lot to inspire too much confidence on Monday night, but it's kind of hard to break down this Denver-New England game. One thing I will say, Sonny Michel going on IR, Damian Harris having 100 yards. He could emerge as a back to pick up here right now if he didn't get picked up already by a lot of people.
Yeah. Sorry.
Damian Harris, he averaged almost 6 yards, like 5.6 yards a carry in this game, and man, we've talked. New England's obviously running the ball this year.
Yeah, I just think Harris, he had inflated stats. Like, he had a long run that got him there. And I still think that's a 3 or 4 headed monster at running back. I really just don't love playing a New England back unless you have to.
He does look like he's a guy that they want to take over carrying the football, though. He's clearly their best runner, right? Like Rex Burkhead is Rex Burkhead is the kind of the combination of Damian Harris and James White, but he's not quite as talented as either one of those guys. But he does the dirty work. He's their best blocker that they have, and obviously James White is their best pass catcher out of the backfield. And as we know with Belichick, he's always going to play personnel that makes sense depending upon the down and distance, right? Like they don't have a guy. They're going to play to the game. And that's the way New England has worked for forever. And so if you can understand coming into the game how you expect them to play, then maybe you can put a head on or put the correct guy in your lineup. But if you think they're going to run the football a lot, I think maybe it's Damian Harris. If they're looking like they're going to be in a game where they're going to have to sling it a little bit, Rex Burkhead and James White feel like they're probably the safer plays. But again, like you said, Martin, they're risky, and it's like throwing darts, man. Are you going to hit that bullseye or not?
Yeah, and especially if Cam doesn't play, and it's if Cam doesn't play, it's going to be a down week for the Patriots offense, just straight up. I really don't see a way where that won't be the case. So this week, I'd say you consider benching every Patriot that you have. Consider
on the Denver side. Hopefully Drew Lock can get back out there because that quarterback. I can't believe they won with all the mistakes Rippon made in that game on Thursday night. But that's what happens when you play the Jets. You can somehow pull out a victory even though you don't deserve it.
Yeah. For Denver, I think it's clear. Like as long as Rippon's the quarterback, he seems to like Tim Patrick. So could lead to success when Locke returns. Like you see something in the target tree got weaker with Noah Fant injury. So
yeah, and Fant's a good player. I hate to see that injury. Jerry Jeudy had only 61 yards and a touchdown, but what a catch on that 54-yard touchdown. That was one of the best catches I've seen all year. Let's hit this Rams-Washington football team game. The one thing on the Washington football team, benching Dwayne Haskins, I'm sure their fans are saying, thank God. He just
I'm shocked by that, honestly.
I said it. I said Kyle Allen time.
It was nailed that. I'm a little shocked by it, but you're right.
I'm shocked that they put him at third string and like they moved up Alex Smith to backup. That's the weird part about it. But either way, I think that's very good for Terry McLaurin and probably any other.
I strongly disagree on the McLaurin thing. He just gets so many targets with Haskins.
Yeah, 10 catches.
He had 10 catches last week, and Haskins, McLaurin. He's the one guy that Haskins. He just goes to him so much. I think Allen doesn't have the chemistry with him yet, and they're going to distribute the ball more. That's my
to
theory.
who? To who? To Steven Sims? Like who the hell else is catching balls?
Here's the thing with what we've learned very quickly with Dwayne Haskins. If the first read is not there, he doesn't. It's problems quickly. And right now, his first read is McLaurin every single time. He's getting the ball out to him. He has 14 targets in the game. But if that is not there, it immediately breaks down for him. Dwayne Haskins up here is not ready for the NFL. One of the reasons that you see the elite quarterbacks, the Bradys, the Breeses, the Mannings, they beat you before the football is ever even snapped. Dwayne Haskins has no clue what's going on right now before the football snapped. It's complete confusion for him in his mind as to what he is seeing and deciphering on the other side of the football, and teams are eating him alive, even with just some simple coverages. And if you can't get the mental aspect, the chess game of beating a defense down in the NFL, you're not going to be able to win. And right now, I think that's the biggest concern for Dwayne Haskins. And then, of course, he misses some throws on top of that, which obviously compounds the issue. And right now, he's just not a starting quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, I just think having a quarterback that isn't terrible is just still going to be good for McLaurin. I get the targets thing, but I think it'd be good. If I'm a McLaurin owner, I'm like feeling not too bad about it. I do like Antonio Gibson moving forward a lot. He finally broke a big play, which is what he was kind of known for at Memphis. And he's seems to be getting a little more touches in space. I just think his value is trending up.
I don't think it can be bad for him that Haskins is gone. I mean, I think that I can understand.
Certainly.
I want to hit this Rams front. Rams struggled a lot on offense. The Giants do have a pretty good defense. They just can't move the ball. The Rams running back situation, we've kind of been monitoring. I know Darrell Henderson's had a good games. Cam Akers missed the last 2 weeks with ribs. We've seen Malcolm Brown. It seems like it's a hard one to figure out, is what I think.
Yeah, I mean, McVay kind of trolled us last week because it was looking clearly like Henderson was – the best play, and then last week Malcolm Brown got the bulk of the carries. So that's a hard backfield to peg, and that's kind of a theme this season. There's 3 or 4 teams that just have backfields that have really good backs, but you just have no idea who to play each week.
That doesn't feel like a high-scoring game to me either. Rams and Washington football team, Rams on the road.
Ooh. You know what the Rams did in this game? I watched some of this. They just felt like they were playing not to lose the game. It's make sure we don't do anything dumb and accidentally give the Giants the win. They didn't really attack down the field. Everything they did was in the short to intermediate. I mean, Kupp had 5 catches for 69. Robert Woods only averaged 6 yards per catch. Everything they did was just get the ball out quickly. Let's not make any mistakes here. And so, and it works. Look, they won the football game. That's what matters in the NFL is getting it done. They don't care about our fantasy team. I think when the Rams, if you project a higher score in football games, they can turn it up some. We've seen them go out there and sling it and put up 45. You know what I mean? So it's in this offense still. But against bad football teams, I think McVay is going to play it fairly smart. And you may see that again this week against Washington.
All right, let's move on. This game doesn't have a lot of fun fantasy value. This Jacksonville-Houston game actually does, though. This is the sleeper for like a higher-scoring game of the week than people are going to pay attention to. And I actually like Houston in this game now that O'Brien's gone. I think they're going to actually play good because the whole team is thanking God he's no longer there. Just how big a disaster. I mean, wow, he gets the GM duties, trades Hopkins, and then he gets fired as coach after 4 weeks.
Such a funny sequence of events. Yeah, that's one of the things I had in my notes on this game is will Bill O'Brien's departure make Deshaun Watson better? And probably.
Will Fuller had over 100 and a touchdown, and for the most part, other than that Ravens game, he's had a good year so far.
Yep.
But I kind of think this game's going to have a lot of points in it.
Here's the one thing that firing Bill O'Brien doesn't do. It doesn't make this offensive line any better, and they're still atrocious. You know what I mean? And that's the big hang up for me about this football team. It's the reason David Johnson's value isn't enough because they can't run the football behind that line. It's the reason Watson has zero time to let some. One of the things I expected to see more of was Will Fuller destroying some teams downfield. He doesn't have a chance to get 15 yards down the field before Watson has to break out of the pocket. You know what I mean? And so that's really that's the hang up right now with Houston. I don't think firing Bill O'Brien's going to fix that, but I do think maybe you'll see a better effort from the team. It just felt like it was washed up in Houston. They were done. I mean, everybody had soured on Bill O'Brien. It was very evident. And maybe the team would have played some inspired football. So while I believe their flaws will still be there, maybe the energy and the effort will be ratcheted up just a bit. And if you're looking for a game for them to win, I think I agree with you, Ben. This is one where Houston's going to come out and probably beat a Jacksonville team that I'm not personally too impressed with. But they do have some fantasy value on the other side as well.
DJ Shark had a big game last week, and I know Marty, you were big on him, and we were kind of unsure.
Yeah, I mean he's a touchdown machine. He's scored a touchdown in every game he's played. He had 2 last week, and just his return in general is just massive for the Jaguars' passing game and offense in general. So I think Minshew has fantasy upside, like as a QB2, as long as Chark is there. And Will Fuller, he's healthy. I think he's a must start. I mean, he's the only target that Deshaun Watson seems to like consistently, right? Like he's the only one that seems to consistently get targets. And I'm just gonna start him and accept the results from here on out. I think Cooks and Cobb are on my hot seat.
I'm Will Fuller's in my lineup every week here on out. He's the number one, and this is a team that their defense is not good enough, so they're going to play a lot of
defense is horrible.
They're going to be behind a lot. They're going to have to sling it, and Will Fuller is going to be one of the main beneficiaries of that. And even tracing back to last year, when Will Fuller is on the field, he's been like a top 25 receiver, like every single game he's on the field. But except for the one where he put up the 0 spot. But outside of that, just tracing back through his career, when he's on the field, he's definitely a viable option.
Yeah, I got a big daily fantasy player this week, and that's James Robinson. That Houston run defense is so bad, and you could probably get him for a decent value.
I like that.
All right, Buffalo, Tennessee. It looks like the COVID situation continues to be bad in Tennessee. They're not allowing players in the facility. A couple more players tested positive. It's going to be weird with them having to make these games up later in the year. But one positive is A.J. Brown's knee's going to be healthy, and I think he's back in practice in a limited, or he's near being back, which is he was led the NFL in receiving last 6 weeks last year, and I think he's certainly been missed in that offense. We'll see. But I don't think this game's happening though this week.
No, I don't think it's going to either.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, I'm surprised at how much I'm enjoying watching the Buffalo Bills play football.
Uh-huh.
I mean, we coming into the year, we knew they were going to have a good defense. We were still thinking that Josh Allen was going to be good. But Stephon Diggs has elevated Josh Allen. Like, Diggs is making plays that let you know Diggs is an elite receiver in this league. And Josh Allen is throwing some dimes in there sometimes. Man, the touch passes are there as well. We know he can put it on a rope if he needs to. Like, Josh Allen has impressed me in a lot of ways that I did not expect coming into this season. And I think one of the reasons is because Stephon Diggs is an elite weapon on the outside. And they've clearly grown a relationship here, and they've elevated one another. And right now, Buffalo is a scary threat for anybody.
Yeah, I think that Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, with an emphasis on Diggs, might be 2 of the biggest steals of the entire fantasy draft. I mean, Diggs fell way too far. Zach Moss is someone that I liked coming into the draft. The toe injury kept him out last week. I know we were both high on him.
Rookie running backs emerge second half all the time, though. Like it's one of those things. It's like a tradition for everybody gets excited in fantasy drafts about the new exciting rookie, and then everybody gets mad at him the first 5 or 6 weeks, and then down the stretch you see him emerge. It's like clockwork every season.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it literally always happens.
Yeah, and I think Gabriel Davis is just neutralizing the rest of the Buffalo receivers. I'm not wild about any Buffalo receiver not named Diggs.
I don't have a problem with that. Let's move on to the Arizona Jets game. What happened to Kyler Murray with only 130 yards against that Carolina pass D last week? That was.
I don't want to talk about it.
It was like a news cross country game. They slept. What the hell happened?
He just looked sloppy.
It was the biggest surprise for me of anything last week. I just expected they were going to rip them apart.
Me too.
That's what I expected to happen. It didn't. And I don't know. I didn't watch the game, so I really can't comment on what happened.
I watched it.
I'm sure you probably got a chance to see it more, and I didn't watch this game because I just expected them to roll. But we didn't see that, so maybe you can fill us in a bit.
Offensive line has overperformed so far this year, and on Sunday, they just really did not play well. He did not have a lot of time. He was running all over. He had a few decent runs, which kept it. I don't know how many fantasy points he ended up with, but he still had 3 scores and some rushing yards. But I do love a bounce back game for Kyler Murray against this pathetic New York Jets team.
But Arizona needs to win here too because they were so excited, but now two
Can't
losses.
Lose the Jets.
Two
Can't
losses
lose
as
the
favorites
Jets.
at home to
Yeah.
Detroit.
And I think this might be. I know I said this last week that a big Kenyon Drake game is coming, but
he's a little banged up too.
Yeah, he's ineffective, and Chase Edmonds, got all the catches, out of the backfield. So I don't really know. I just think the Jets are giving up a lot of rushing touchdowns. If it's going to happen, I think it's going to happen this week. So, obviously you're playing Drake. You draft him high. Hopefully it works out.
You know how I feel about Kenyon Drake. I think it's about time they go ahead and give Chase Edmonds this backfield. He's a superior talent. Look, I've been preaching. I think Kenyon Drake's going to end up being the biggest bust of the season. It's my personal opinion here.
Miles Sanders.
Yeah, that's fair too. But here's what happens when Chase Edmonds is on the field. You don't quite know what they're going to do. Right now with Kenyon Drake, when he's on the field, you're expecting it to be a run, right?
Yeah.
And the teams are stuffing the run. So I think Cliff Kingsbury's too smart. I think he's going to start to see here Chase Edmonds on the field. Doesn't give the defense the ability to cue in on what we're doing. So I think you're going to see Edmonds slowly but surely get more and more involved in this offense. But neither one of them are elite by any means. But I'm a little surprised that Arizona's backfield hasn't produced more than it has.
I agree. That's about all I have to say about the Cardinals. I do want to give compliments to your boy Jamison Crowder. He's just been excellent when he's healthy, and he's definitely wide receiver 3 flex play in PPR leagues for certain, and I think really any league. He's been good.
He's one of the best route runners in this league, man. Nobody gives him credit because he plays on a bad team, bad quarterback, but he's an elite route runner in this league. He's not super fast or anything, but he's so crafty and he's got great hands.
Let's move on to.
And Jeff Smith's not completely terrible. But other than that, you should not have a Jet on your roster unless it's Le'Veon Bell, I guess.
Yeah, man. It's bad. Philly-Pittsburgh feels like a slugfest coming. Philly, big win last week, finally. Thank Nick Mullins for it.
Yeah.
Still wasn't very impressed by the offense. It's still a complete body count at receiver. Alshon Jeffrey and Deshaun Jackson are trying to be limited in practice this week, so maybe
trying
to be limited. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Zach Ertz is
Alshon's career.
Yeah. Zach Ertz is washed. He's washed.
I think I put it on Ertz, man. This
I'm not putting it on Ertz. I just think he's borderline unstartable in fantasy right now.
I don't even know that it's his fault, man.
I'm not saying anything's his fault.
Carson Wentz is not good.
Nah.
Can you go there? He's not.
No. They gave him the lifetime contract, and it's just been terrible since then.
And he really never recovered from that knee injury. His second year, he was headed for the MVP.
Mm-hmm.
And, we take torn ACLs for granted in this day and age because so many people do it and come back. But he had, the torn ACL, UCL, MCL. He tore a ton of stuff. And, part of what made him elite that year was he would extend plays. And he wouldn't necessarily run, but he'd keep them alive, and then you'd see him make plays down the field. And he hadn't been comfortable since he came back from the knee injury and isn't athletic enough to extend plays anymore. He just didn't. He's just not comfortable. And
if he wore his hat forwards and not backwards, he'd be better. Shout out Cowherd.
On the Pittsburgh front, they've had some receivers banged up. I know Juju Smith-Schuster trying to go. He's got a little bit of a knee thing. Deontay Johnson, I believe, had a concussion. I'm curious to see how that goes for them. But James Conner, he's had a couple good games in a row. Hopefully he can continue here.
Yeah, I expect that to continue. Look, James Conner's a good back. He's not one of the elite talented backs in this league, but this offense is pretty balanced. Big Ben. Okay, we're going back to quarterbacks that understand what they're seeing at the line of scrimmage. Big Ben has been in this league so long. They've thrown so much at him. He knows how to decipher the defense before the play happens. He puts them in great positions. So I don't necessarily think there's great weapons on this Pittsburgh team at all, but they've got a very heady quarterback running the show, and he still puts them into good positions play after play, and James Conner's a big beneficiary of that.
This game feels like slow. I mean, granted, all Eagles games don't feel like they're going to be shootouts, but just Philly, Pittsburgh, I don't know. I don't feel this is going to be like a fantasy.
Well, Pennsylvania battle.
No, not huge. And like this, I don't know. Pittsburgh defense is really good, and I think this Eagles O-line and the receivers are so depleted. This just offense won't do much against upper-tier defenses. So, yeah, any Eagle, I'm saying look for other options, including Miles Sanders. I don't care if you took him first round.
I'm not willing to go that far on Sanders just yet. I don't love him either, but
I'm saying consider.
It's a tough matchup. All
right, Cincinnati heads to Baltimore. Look, Joe Burrow's been awesome the last few weeks, especially with what he's dealing with. But I'm worried it's about to get a little tougher here. He's got 4 games against Baltimore and Pittsburgh still, and this is the first one. I'm still concerned, but I do got to give him credit. He's been consistent the last 3 weeks. They're 1-2-1. I mean, they could be 3-1 even. I mean, they could have that Chargers game week 1, and then they could have won the Eagles game. They got their win. I mean, they're being very competitive. He's shown. If you're a Bengals fan, you're ecstatic about the future. Tyler Boyd seems like the go-to guy. Higgins' fantasy value kind of creeping up. We kind of touched on that.
Higgins seems like he's for sure the top outside target. He's just he's getting those balls that Burrow was forcing to AJ Green earlier in the year. And I feel like an idiot. I drafted T. Higgins in one of my leagues, dropped him to make a waiver claim. I think I dropped him to get Mike Davis, so it wasn't that bad, but. Still wish I'd have hung on to him and gotten someone else.
Lamar's got. He's limited. They held him out of practice with a knee injury today. I don't think it's anything major. They're saying it's precaution, but still, anytime he's nicked up with a knee injury and gets the team they're supposed to beat, that means they may not run him as much.
Is there a reason there's no line on this game, or what are we waiting on for that?
I got Baltimore by 13.
Lamar again?
I got Baltimore by 13.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
okay,
I had 13 and a half.
I didn't have it in front of me here. That's about right. I think they're going to smash them here. But here's what I like about Burrow. Dude competes, man. He's a warrior out there. He's getting beat. He's taken more hits than any quarterback in the league, if I'm not mistaken, him and Deshaun Watson. And he's just battling play after play, and you got to respect the heck out of that. I actually think he is going to show us something in this game and compete. Maybe the Bengals don't get blown out as much as people think they will. But you can't start him. That's the problem here. The pass rush for Baltimore too good. They're going to hit him a lot in this game, unfortunately.
On the Ravens, anybody? You got to start Mark Andrews every week. You get 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, he's back in business.
But the running back thing still is just not.
Yeah, and
not
that's
fun.
one of those teams I was talking about. They're just the 3-headed monsters that you just can't really figure out. I mean, Ingram got that short touchdown last week, but I just still think Edwards is the better option. I just think he gets more downhill runs.
I don't really know what to think. J.K. Dobbins' role should emerge as the season goes on is the only thing I continue to look at. But I
think one of them's going to have a good game this week, but I couldn't tell you which one.
I hate to say this, fantasy owners need somebody to get hurt in that backfield. I hate to be that guy, but if you're a fantasy owner, it's what you need so you can get more defined roles. It's the truth. It's the truth. I'm not wishing that on anybody. I'm just saying fantasy owners.
Oh, no, certainly not.
Them,
Miami heads to San Fran. Miami last week, Devontae Parker had 10 for 110, but man, it's hard to find anybody else that's useful week to week in the passing game. Mike Gesicki's not horrible, but he's hard.
He's disappointing.
Yeah, and their running back situation's bad. The Niners front, we got to give homage to George Kittle's Warrior, 15 for 182 and a touchdown effort last week. I mean, he almost willed them to a win there. But hell of a game by him. I like what I saw to Brandon Ayuk, especially in that 45-yard catch and run touchdown, man. Very athletic after the catch. He leaped, he got the 5.
Ayuk.
And, when Garoppolo comes back, all of a sudden I've been an open, huge hater of the Niners receiving thing. Man, Deebo Samuel and Ayuk, see some pretty dang potential there with Kittle. I've seen it could be a lot worse. I mean, both those guys can make plays with the ball after the catch. They're both athletic, got speed. So, that those guys will have better value though when Garoppolo comes back.
Yeah, I mean, Ayuk's my guy. I mean, he's a Sun Devil. He led the NCAA in yards after catch, right? Didn't you say that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's just clear why, that play made that hurdle. I mean, I'm just very happy I have him stashed. I'm actually considering playing him this week against this Miami defense that just really isn't that good.
I don't have too much more to add on this one. Jerick McKinnon did.
Yeah. I mean, he made Jeff Wilson just completely irrelevant. And just
we kind of talked about.
Yeah, and I think he might still be a flex after Mostert returns. I mean, he's been dynamic and productive, enough. And like on the Miami front, like I have Devontae Parker. As long as Fitz is playing, he seems to be a pretty good play. Williams, Gesicki, disappointing. Preston Williams just doesn't look like a threat at all.
How much longer do y'all think we see Fitz out there with this Tua thing, with Miami losing?
They're competitive though. They're not. He doesn't look awful. They're competitive. I don't know. That's the question. Is I don't have an answer for you there.
I had a take on this when I was looking at their schedule. Hold on.
So Mostert's expected to be back. He's practicing this week. What I'm kind of thinking here is they'll probably limit him. This is a game the 49ers should win, pretty handily, I would assume, because their defense is it's still really good. And so I kind of expect that this is still a week where McKinnon should have a good role. And then as Mostert starts to fully get healthy, you'll see him like reclaim this backfield. But I think right now McKinnon might actually be the better play this week, even if Mostert is back and starting. I'm a Mostert owner. He'll probably be in my lineup, but I don't feel super good about it, even though this is a plus matchup.
Hey, here, Week 10, Miami plays the Jets. Then they have their bye. Then Week 12, they play the Jets again, and then they play the Bengals. I think that's when we'll see him.
Makes a little sense to me as well. Let's talk about this Giants-Dallas game. I actually just have a take on the gambling front. Boy, this over-under is 54 in a division matchup, and I mean, the Dallas totals are obviously inflated because what's been going on. They've been playing these shootouts, but let's just say I don't see this one being as high scoring as a lot of these other ones. Taking on the Giants here, but still got to play Dak and Amari Cooper and Zeke and all the Cowboys. And Dalton Schultz has been stepped in and been really, really solid. We talked about how it was a shame what happened to Blake Jarwin and his torn ACL, and how his role would have been in his offense, but Schultz is producing.
Yeah, he's an every week starter for sure. I mean, this is just a down year for the tight end in general. We're very top heavy. There's 3 really good ones. The rest are just meh. So yeah, he's definitely an every week starter. But God, Jarwin could have been so much better, I think. I can't help but think about that every time I see Schultz make a play.
Is there anybody on this Giants team other than Evan Ingram you could stomach trotting out there at this point?
Starting or like rostering? Because I don't think anyone's really even rostering.
Moody, do you still have a case for the Devontae Freeman era?
No.
No, I was not making too much of a case for him to begin with, just because this team sucks, man. I hate to say it like that. They're bad. This is a game Dallas is better than 1-3 in my opinion. This is a game where if the Cowboys are a good football team, they absolutely annihilate the Giants. They beat them up in every single way imaginable. I think that's what will happen here, actually. And I really don't like any Giants in this football game at all.
Daniel Jones, fellas, where are we? I'm not liking it.
Fantasy or real life?
Real life, both.
Well, fantasy's a
it's
no. It's
not his fault, man. Look, I don't want to put it all on him. I think he's a talented young man. The offensive line, it's okay. There's just no weapons. He's got no run game. He lost his star back. Like, I don't want to judge Daniel Jones too much right now, to be honest with you. I think I'm going to kind of just pass judgment on him because I think it's unfair to a player when they have nothing around them to work with.
He makes 2 or 3 throws a game that look really good and make me believe in him, but that's.
And then he misses a couple throws though too. And I think
yeah. No, that's
as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So. Yeah, I don't know.
What do y'all think about this Colts-Cleveland battle? Kind of surprising 3-1 teams here. Fun one. Colts are a 1.5-point favorite in this game. Obviously, we mentioned the Nick Chubb thing. Kareem Hunt certainly gonna.
He's instant top 10 back, right? Instant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so.
Yep.
I think so.
I mean, I've been tooting his horn all year. I think Kareem Hunt, like.
I was glad to say one of my predictions. I felt the Odell Beckham good game in Dallas. Felt like the star.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. How about that throw by Jarvis Landry?
Who knew he was left-handed? I had no idea he was left-handed.
Corner out, man. I mean, that was a hell of a ball.
I think it fooled the defense a lot that he was left-handed. They weren't expecting it. Ugh. Odell still has game-breaking potential. There's no doubt about that now.
I stand by my Odell Beckham theory. Dude needs to get out of the North, cold weather, grass games. Some dome team needs to get him, and he could still be really good. He's just not a cold weather. He's not a cold weather player on grass kind of guy. And I think if he gets on some fast track team, he could be good.
Yeah.
I mean, he is
the
good.
most washed up player in this game will be Phillip Rivers. He has now thrown 4 touchdowns in 4 games, but his team is 3-1. And right now, if there is any quarterback in the NFL, maybe Drew Brees probably kind of falling into that spot, where you're just asking your quarterback to go manage the game, man. Just go manage the game and don't lose it. That's what Phillip Rivers is at right now. But this may be a game where Phillip has to go win them that, and I'm not so sure that he can do it late. Actually, for me, I'm judging Phillip Rivers very heavily off what we're going to see in this game against Cleveland, to be honest with you.
I'm glad to see the 3-1 Browns, too. This is good. It's good for good for them.
That division is going to be really exciting down the stretch.
Yeah. Last thought on Cleveland. I just don't think Baker Mayfield's ever going to be a good fantasy quarterback. I mean, they scored 49 points, and he still didn't have that great of a fantasy day. Austin Hooper was semi-relevant. I know I rag on him a lot, but I still think he's a drop. Harrison Bryant got some targets, and Njoku's back. So, yeah.
That's fair. Let's touch on
and I think there's no reliable play in the Colts passing game. Rivers isn't pushing things, and T.Y. is just not really playing enough.
Before we move on, Dearness Johnson, make sure he's right. If he's available, pick him up. We just don't know what to expect right now. He's going to be the backup for Kareem Hunt for these next 6 weeks, and he looked pretty good touching the football in this game against the Cowboys. So he's just somebody that if he's available, get him. I'm not saying start him, but do not let him sit out on the waiver wire if he happens to be out there.
Yeah, deep league. Yeah, for sure.
Vikings, Seattle. Let's touch on Justin Jefferson, another 100-yard game after the big game against Tennessee, 4 for 104. Glad to see him doing well. Dalvin Cook continues. They're pounding the football. He's Moody, I know you say he's a top 5 back in the NFL. Jamal Adams is out in this game with a groin injury, so that's a break for the Vikings offense as far as if you're playing any of those guys.
It's one of my favorite football games of the week, man. I think it's going to be kind of fun.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. I mean, I've got a restored confidence in Adam Thielen somewhat. Before this week, his only big game was week 1, and he needed a garbage score to really make that happen. So Adam Thielen owners feeling a little better this week. And, Jets, he's not a fluke. He's a legit downfield threat week in, week out. Anyone who got him late, he might end up – it's funny. He and Stephon Diggs and then Stephon Diggs' replacement might end up being the biggest steals of the entire draft. And, Cook's amazing, but that Houston run defense is terrible, so we'll see if he continues.
Got to give Chris Carson some credit last week. He was supposed to not play and ended up having 80 yards and 2 touchdowns. And, Wilson could, maybe he didn't throw 5 touchdowns last week, but, you know what you're getting. I mean, he's obviously.
He's averaging 4 touchdowns per. He's clearly the MVP front runner right now, and he's got weapons. Finally, right? He's been doing it with just basically Tyler Lockett and a little bit of Golden Tate. Just kind of piecing it together, it felt like, for a while for Russell Wilson. Now they've got elite weapons around him. DK Metcalf's a monster. Russell Wilson is making play after play after play. Even when the play breaks down, he extends it. He creates something out of nothing. And he has receivers on the outside that can also create something out of nothing when the play breaks down. And that's a recipe for disaster for opposing defenses. And Minnesota's defense is not the defense we saw a couple years ago. So I expect, this over-under is 57. I think you're going to see a ton of points in this game, especially with Jamal Adams out. I think the Vikings are better than 1-3. I think they'll battle here. I expect Seattle to win it ultimately. But this is going to be a really, really good football game for fantasy owners.
You're really going to gas up the Seattle receiving core and not mention my guy David Moore?
And David Moore, he's out there making things happen occasionally,
Yeah, right. No, I'm kidding. I really like him as a player. He had that long play this week. I think he's a very extremely viable, emergency play and like a high ceiling bench stash. I hate to bring up injuries, but it's part of fantasy football. We have to, in case there's a Metcalf Lockett injury. There's upside for David Moore there, and another guy on Seattle, DJ Dallas. He kind of outplayed Travis Homer, who people thought was going to see some time, and he's just a name to keep in mind with Carson and Hyde both banged up.
Don't add him. Homer called another touchdown last week too. Homer's actually another guy that has to be mentioned because he's getting quite a bit of time on the field too. I think he called another score last week, right?
The Seattle's, it's just tradition for all their running backs to just get banged
One
up.
catch.
But it's just so funny how every year Seattle's running backs, it's a body count. It's just crazy. It's like one of the most injured units in the NFL.
I love Chris Carson, though, man. He's talented.
Oh, he's a good player. He's a real good player.
How about Monday night? Drew Brees gets to play his old team in the Dome. Justin Hebert continues to look very polished and impress. He looks Keenan Allen's way. Oh, a whole heck of a lot. There you go. Moody, who did radio.
Repping, bro. I'm repping Justin Herbert. He's a competitor. I like him, man. He's a good young man all the way around. Obviously, you got a chance to be around him a little bit in Oregon. He's a good dude, and it's hard for me not to cheer for him, to be honest. But he looks pretty good out there. He battled Brady throw for throw last week. He was 20 of 25, and they almost won that football game. But, going on the road here, a chance to take on another Hall of Fame quarterback, one of the other greatest quarterbacks of all time. I think this is a fun game for you to watch a young, what I believe will be a rising star in this league, get to take on one of the greats.
He's real good. He's completely saved Keenan Allen's fantasy value, just completely resurrected that. I think he's going to be good for Mike Williams when he gets back. Just if any other receiver in this core wants to step up, I think it's good for pretty much everyone. And just on this Chargers team, Josh Kelly becomes a harder and harder play every week, even with Eckler out. I'd keep him rostered in case Justin Jackson goes down, but they split carries against Tampa Bay, like right down the middle. So just neither of them is a great play right now as is.
Saints.
I like Justin Jackson a little bit. He was pretty good in roles the last couple of years whenever he's had a chance to be the starting back. He won a championship for me 2 years ago, actually. So Justin Jackson is somebody for me that, like, if you're looking for a flex play, Justin Jackson is a dude that you can put in your lineup, and I think you'd be okay with him on Monday night.
You think right now in this situation, really?
Yeah, I said because of what I've seen the last couple of years. Whenever Eckler has been out, Melvin Gordon, whenever Justin Jackson had a chance to be the starter, he put up pretty good fantasy points in all those games. So I expect. The problem is the Saints' run D is good, the Saints' defense is good, but I would rather start him over Kelly in my opinion.
I feel like I'd have to feel really bad about my running backs to throw Justin Jackson out there.
But here's the thing: some people make is there's a rash of injuries across the league right now.
Sure, yeah.
Well, let's talk about the Saints' offensive effort, which was better last week. Brees had a pretty solid game. Emmanuel Sanders is getting more and more comfortable in this offense, and Alvin Kamara is having a monster fantasy season. But it was a great effort considering all the injuries they had. And do y'all think Mike Thomas is going to try to go this week, or he's going to hold out another week? I know it's still kind of up in the air.
I don't know.
The latest word is on Mike Thomas.
That was huge for the Saints to get to 2-2.
Yeah, I mean, But speaking of Saints receivers, I think Sanders, he finally had a pretty positive fantasy game. That's a good sign for his owners moving forward because, he's going to be that number 2 role when Thomas gets back. And Traquan Smith has been a bigger fantasy success than a lot of guys that were drafted. Like, has he turned the corner? Like, as a legit third option?
A lot of people giving
he
up on him.
Saved my week last week in one of my leagues.
Yeah.
Traquan Smith saved me, honestly. He really did.
It's third-year guy. He's had a lot of injuries, too. And so, we're used to back in the day, you'd always say third year was the NFL breakout year for receivers. But now these guys, you expect them to produce immediately.
Yeah.
Coming out of these college spread offenses. But Traquan, I hadn't given up on him like a lot of other people had. But I'm glad to see him stepping up and doing well. Obviously, when Mike Thomas comes back, his value's going to go way down.
Yeah, it'll dip. But, when you talk about the Saints, you have to talk about this backfield's a fucking, is a gold mine. Murray just took so much advantage of the Lions on defense. He's kind of playing the, Mark Ingram role to Kamara now. He had 2 scores last week. If you have a Saints running back, you feel good about it.
Certainly. And I think the Saints, the one thing, too, they committed to the run more last week, too. I was glad. I think going forward, they need to do that.
Is Drew Brees a startable quarterback week to week right now in fantasy?
In a 1 QB?
In a 1 quarterback league. If you have
not
Drew
necessarily.
Brees, starting Drew Brees.
Not necessarily.
Me, I'm not really.
No, not in a 1 QB. Brees was kind of, I know I'm going to take some flack as a Saints fan, but Brees was kind of on my do not draft. I just didn't.
Yeah, I didn't want him.
It's just not. The explosiveness just isn't necessarily there anymore.
Yeah. Oh, and something I would say, I'm going to target Detroit defenses after their bye, after seeing what New Orleans did to them.
Fair enough. Do y'all have any starter sit questions or anything this week? Do we have any on the YouTube? Facebook
Let's
chat?
see. Let's dive into it.
Yeah, if y'all have any questions, fire them away, and we'll analyze them. I like how we go through every game though, and at least give some we get some comments on everything. It's been fun. I always like doing the fantasy football show, and love what's going on with the ESPN Baton Rouge YouTube channel as they continue.
Yeah. Okay. We've got someone saying, should I run with Watson one more week or roll out Jared Goff?
I'm going with Watson. This is a huge game for him at home against Jacksonville, and Goff at Washington is not the best. Yeah, I love Watson this week actually, and I actually like Houston in this game.
I think he's going to be freewheeling with Bill O'Brien out of there. He's going to be running and playing.
And Jacksonville's defense sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Agreed.
And
I think there's a chance Will Fuller could put up one of the top fantasy weeks of any receiver this week.
Yeah. And this guy also asked, do you think Kenyon Drake will ever get it rolling? Yes. I won't let Moody answer.
If he's going to do it, it'll be this week. Look, this is a very big week for Kenyon Drake and Kenyon Drake owners. Let's just be honest about it here. This is a huge week against a defense that does not stop the run well. If he cannot even get into if he doesn't go for 80 yards and a score right here, then there is definitely a problem. And then, I'm sure the Cardinals will continue to evaluate as well. But this is a week that you probably have to start him because they're playing one of the worst run defenses in the NFL. But man, he better prove something. Or I think he's one of the players that's on the hot seat for losing their starting role, really.
Fellas, I always love just getting in here on Wednesday night, just getting to talk about all this. And it's fun for me, too, because this kind of sets the table for the week. And I think we've been getting good support. Marty's done a great job with the videos every week. I think the video.
It is Wednesday, my dudes.
But the video thing's kind of been popping. It's becoming a little bit of a Wednesday tradition, and it's just a lot of fun to talk fantasy football. I don't know how, and it sets the table.
I love it. I mean, besides like NBA, fantasy is probably my favorite thing. It's just something about the strategy involved. It's just something about it's just great.
Well, guys, what a time to be alive right now, right? I understand that there's all this craziness in the world, and obviously things are so much bigger than sports. But we've got the NBA Finals. We've got crazy Major League Baseball playoffs. We've got the peak of fantasy football season. Like, could you ask for more as a fantasy sports fan? Of course, college football as well. So I think as a sports fan right now, you're getting a chance to live something you'll never get to live again, probably, with all three of these kind of at their pinnacle at the moment. And that's amazing, honestly.
No, it is. And it's been a whole heck of a lot of fun, as it is every Wednesday night, talking some fantasy football with you guys. We'll re-release the show on Thursday morning like we do and push it on social media for all the people that weren't with us on the late night, Wednesday night time. And just want to thank you guys again. It's been fun.
Yeah, it's been great.
I appreciate you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, well, for Playboy Marty and myself, Ben Mintz, and Tyler Moody, thank you all for listening to this week's edition of Dear Mr. Fantasy on the 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge YouTube channel, and good luck in your fantasy football matchups this week.
All right, I got to go stop the stream.
Appreciate it, boys.